Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger, and today we're chatting with my friend Jason Elkins. Jason has a very powerful story, and he actually lost his job and started a business through having coffee meetings. And he calls cold calls the punishment for not hosting weekly coffee meetings. And he's got a fantastic story of how he have built his business by meeting with people over coffee, and then the relationships that has been built over that time. I took a lot of notes here. He says, sales is more relational than transactional. And he says that you have to have a network. And our mutual friend, Dan Miller, who actually introduced us, has called a 3 a.m. list. Those people that you could call at 3 a.m. that would take your call and help you through whatever you're going through. And this is essentially how Jason has built his 3 a.m. list, by having coffee with people. And that has turned into incredible friendships. And he says that people do business with friends. And that's so true. And my business is built on relationships, and business is relationships. And if you want to learn how to essentially revolutionize your business, what Jason teaches will do that, because he just comes at business as more of a friendship and building a relationship with somebody first, and then the transaction can come at some point. But this is such a powerful episode. You're going to learn a ton. If you want to follow Jason, go to 100cups.coffee, and he's about to launch a new membership called listen70.com. listen70.com, and I bet that has to do with it. He says you need to listen 70% of the time and talk 30% of the time during these meetings. It's so powerful. But here's my episode with Jason. Jason, welcome to Streams of Income. So glad to have you.
Thanks, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So we found each other through Dan Miller. He recommended 100 Cups Academy, and I started reading it. I'm like, man, I'm immediately intrigued and signed up for your class. And so I would definitely want to talk about that, but you have such an awesome story. And I love hearing people's stories, and it's so fun because there's a lot of knowledge that can be pulled out from folks' stories and things that we can learn from what other people have gone through. So we either don't make the same mistakes or fast track, fast track our success by listening to other people's stories. Or the other thing it does is helps us believe, because there are people that might just really resonate with your story and thinking like, man, he's about my age or from my area, or, he's just a guy like me. And if Jason can do it, it'll give people belief in their own, in their own power to do it as well. So stories are powerful.
Yeah, I totally believe that. I totally believe that as well. And it's fun to have mentors, even people that we don't necessarily know, or just authors and people that have gone before or paved a way that we think is interesting. So I'm all about the story, and the work that I do. Story is so important too. So
it is. Well, tell me about yours.
So I've been in sales or marketing basically my entire career. Started out in staffing years ago, which is a really good place to cut your teeth on relationship building and sales. It's a double close. You're wrapping up the candidate, and you're wrapping up the client.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nuances and a lot of things that can go wrong on either side of that equation. The employer makes a change, or you're if you're selling vehicles, it's not like the car's not going to show up, or decide that the commute was too far, right?
Yes.
So that was really, really good training for that. And I did that for, almost 15 years and enjoyed it. But I kind of started experiencing a little bit of burnout. And some of the people that I was working with that I saw were making a lot of money were also not necessarily the most ethical, and that's a business that if you're not really careful, can easily lead you down a pathway of ethics concerns. You're telling people about changing in their big lives, or they're making big decisions for their lives. And, a job is usually the top 4 or 5 things that we think about.
Right.
As we're on this planet, as we're growing.
Right.
So to make sure that everything goes smoothly in that, you got to be really above board all the time. And the people that I saw that were making a lot of money were some of the most challenging in that respect. So, and that combined with some burnout, I just felt like I needed to get out of that industry. And I started looking for jobs in the area. I'm north of Nashville in a city called Hendersonville. It's kind of sort of used to be a bedroom community of Nashville, a lot of commuters. And I saw a contract on the table of a client that I was trying to pitch services that I was working for. And it was for web and networking sales in my backyard. And I was driving like an hour one way to work. I was thinking, man, this sounds way better from just a location standpoint. So I started calling those guys and just wore them out until they gave me an opportunity to come and work for them. And they were kind of the 800-pound gorilla website company in our town. They did like the government contract stuff and a lot of nonprofits, and it was going well. I thought I'd been there for about 3 years, primarily doing sales, and they had talked about single threading all the sales through me. And walked in one morning for a meeting. Boss called us all in and called me into a meeting with his partner, and their lips were quivering just a little bit. And it was kind of one of those, you could feel the energy in the room wasn't great. And they said, today we're letting you go. We're letting a designer go. We're making some shifts in the way that we do business. They had partnered with a different platform. And the platform was supplying leads. And if I was in their spot, I may have made that same decision. So hindsight's a really good lens sometimes. But in the moment, that was a challenging thing for me.
Sure.
I really liked the sales aspect of it because I knew that I was helping people and businesses grow with these website launches. But the thing I didn't like about it was once the sale's over, you're done. It's you spend a lot of time building relationships.
And then they're just gone.
Connected. So we were, even at that time, we were bringing in like newsletter marketing discussions, and social media was just becoming a thing at that time. So we started doing some lunch and learn stuff, and I loved that. I love the education process and providing this massive value on top of what they were already paying for. So I had a thought that maybe I could do that. This is literally happening in real time as I'm driving home. I'm not sure what this is going to look like. And then I walked in the door, and my wife was like, why are you here at 9:30 in the morning? And
oh no.
I said, well, I told her the situation, and she said she's got some interesting spiritual gifts. And she said, I saw this coming, which I didn't. She said, I saw this coming, and probably time to start that thing that you've been thinking about, or this other thing that makes you happier with this work.
So you had already been thinking about, like in the back of your mind, been thinking, "Ooh, I'd like to do." Was it the newsletter stuff you were talking about? What was on your heart that you was already kind of brewing in the background?
That I felt like we could help these companies more than just this one sliver of marketing. And that she knew that I liked. I still talk to some of those guys. And she knew that I liked the people that I was working with. But I think she knew that I was a little bit, maybe not quite happy with the future there. It was kind of like, okay, well, and being a salesperson for a web company is not a bad gig. And I never looked down my nose on that job. But the idea of helping people more was really that was the kind of idea that was resonating. And it was more like, what can we do as a company? You know, I didn't really think, oh, I should go out and do this thing on my own, but
yeah. Wow.
but yeah, thanks. She's been a really good support structure for me. And I think as entrepreneurs or if you're business minded, having that support's important. And sometimes we have to buy that, right? We maybe hire a coach or something.
Yes.
But having that internal is a key success factor, I think.
Absolutely. I'd also say, probably looking back on it now, you could probably say the Lord was preparing you.
Yeah.
He was already preparing your wife. She just hadn't told you that yet. But you already had ideas for the next step that you thought you were going to implement in your current company. But then now you have an opportunity to do it on your own. So, God is just so good, Jason. You know this, that he sees the future and we don't see it. And he has plans and ideas, and he's already got the way prepared before there's a problem. It's just, you can look back on that now and see that. At the time, it's probably, oh crap, what am I going to do? But he was already preparing you.
For sure. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. That I was working on a blog of my own that I called Transparent Christian Magazine. And I had felt, and I still feel, that faith isn't what happens on a Sunday morning, that it really, the way that you impact is just by being your full self.
That's right.
And treating the people around you in the best way possible that, you would think in God's eyes. Right. So I had developed a little bit of a reputation. I didn't have a ton of, I didn't have a great network at that time. It was okay. But of somebody that at least could be trusted. And so I had this idea. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank. We weren't really preparing for this. Like you said, God was preparing us. But I've been working on this magazine and kind of coordinating people and having guest authors and doing some writing of my own and kind of understanding the power of this, the web that was in not just a website, but the stuff around it.
Yeah.
And I had this idea that I really didn't want to go back to work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I decided this idea was, maybe if I just had 100 cups of coffee in 100 days with 100 business people, I would maybe not have to go back to work for somebody else.
Wow. That was a God idea too.
For sure. For sure.
Well,
and if you break it down, it's like a quarter. Okay. You got a quarter to figure this out.
Yeah.
If you can run with this or not. And so I started having meetings with people.
Was that when you started doing that, was the goal to hopefully one of these is going to offer me a job, or what was your approach with those? And now I know what it was going through your academy. Doesn't have to have an agenda. Just to get to know this other person, and things are going to happen. But what was your goal at the beginning?
The goal wasn't to get another job. The goal was to find another.
Sorry, you already said you didn't want to get another job, but you wanted to to kick off this new company.
Enough projects. I started going, okay, if I could charge $40 or $50 an hour for blog writing, which I had been doing a lot on my own, and newsletter marketing, which I had been using some newsletter stuff to promote the magazine, and we were also doing some stuff at my job. And if I could help people do that, if I just had enough of those folks, I at least wouldn't have to go back and take a job. And Ryan, I had been through a lot of startups. Yeah. Like I always seem to find, these places in chaos for some reason and go to work for them. And I don't really think the job that I had necessarily was like that, but I had a lot of things that looked really good on paper, sounded really good, but maybe were a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And just having the idea that I made money for all these other people. Yeah. I just need a fraction of that to make it for myself.
Exactly.
And I'd be able to control my destiny. More.
Exactly.
So that kind of at the core, that was it.
Were you really strategic in who you invited to coffee? Like people that you thought would be potential clients?
Yeah. Yes and no. And even in my class, I teach this, right? You're going to have one shot, one kills where, You roll in, they have a need, you have a solution, and things are going to work out. You're going to get a deal. But by and large, what you need is a network.
So true.
And even in the staffing stuff that I had done, I realized there was a lot of times that the people that were interviewing for other jobs were really skilled. Some were senior level folks, but they were company men or company women, meaning that they spent all of their time and efforts focusing on supporting that organization.
Yeah.
If that job ended, which they do sometimes without, it's not even our fault sometimes. They didn't have the network to plug in anywhere else. So I really felt that if I just knew enough people, I would be able to figure out, if I just had enough relationships, I'd be able to figure it out. And it's funny you mentioned job. The first meeting I had was with a guy named Kevin Anderson, who ran the sales for 94 FM The Fish in town. And this is before, it was a Christian radio station. This is before they had any digital offering. And he said, I would hire you today to sell airtime, but you will probably be miserable. You've been doing this web stuff, and that's really, I think that's where you want to go. But I'll just let you know, if you try this for a while and things don't work, come back. And that was a little bit of a safety net.
Sure. Yeah.
To have that. I'm strategic I love meeting with people that have some influence. So I don't really care what industry necessarily, or I'm not like, oh, I got to meet CEOs or people, business people of some influence, because that's how you expand a network.
Yep.
That was about as strategic as I got. So.
Wow. So you decided, let's have 100 cups of coffee with some influential people. And what started happening?
So after so in like the first couple of weeks, I wrote a blog and posted on this kind of a really ugly website that I built myself, and about this idea, the 100 cups idea. And I got a call from the newspaper in town saying, we want to feature you as the entrepreneur of the week, which was hilarious. I didn't have any clients, I said, sure. So I had a friend take some pictures of me at Panera with a coffee cup and my computer, and answer some questions over the phone. And this article published like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Wow.
And I got a phone call from an old client from the web stuff that said, hey, we're trying to figure some of this stuff out. Can you come and talk to us? And I did that. And then I was networking with a pest control company that I had met through a job thing that we ran at the old company. And they were looking to get into digital. They were trying to get away from yellow pages and stuff like that, and trying to transition. I mean, I say that now, it sounds funny, but just 10, 15 years ago, this was revolutionary. That's how you advertise is billboards, TV, newspapers. So they asked me to come in and talk to them, and my first client was a pest control company that wanted to take a shot at this digital stuff, and I helped them for years. They ended up being a really good organization. I'm still friends with them now.
That's so cool.
This far later.
That's so cool. So as you're like having coffee, I imagine it comes up, hey Jason, what are you up to now? I'm just lost my job, and just trying to start this new business. And I mean, because you're not like sitting there. I know you're in your academy. You talk about, people do business with friends, so it's not like you're trying. These are not. I mean, they are sales type things, but it's way more casual. It's what's at the bottom. I love the bottom. This is what Dan mentioned at the event. I remember this now. Your tagline at the bottom of your emails that. Let me see if I can get this right. Something about cold calls is the punishment for not having coffee meetings.
Yeah, that's it. Not having weekly coffee meetings. That's it. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I just I would much rather. It's a little bit easier to say now because I've been through some. I've got business obviously, but I would much rather have a really good relationship with somebody that has a good network, that understands what I do, than just a one shot, one kill kind of sale.
Yeah.
As an example, through those meetings, I started like meeting with people, and then I would post about them on my social media platforms. and people love being part of a winning team. These are things that I learned later or during it. I didn't have this grand vision that I was building a system here. But people like being part of a winning team. So just seeing somebody that's out doing it, I don't think I'm working particularly harder than any other entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But it's more visible because I'm talking about it more on social. And now we understand that. But at that time, that wasn't really, people were still trying to figure out if they needed a Facebook page or needed to use this new stuff. But I was always promoting other people. And
so you're serving first. You're coming at it with the service mindset. Yeah.
And I was also willing to give information away. That's one of the principles of 100 Cups Academy is leading with your best. So I was always willing to, if they had questions, I'm not going to say, hey, that's something that you pay me for.
Yeah.
And I know this is a little controversial in the coaching world, but they're not going to, if they do take an idea that I give them and they run with it, great. That's fine. I'm fine with that. They're not going to get everything from me in an hour, just, 40 minutes or whatever. So I would lead with my best stuff. Always try to just give really good advice, be there for them if they had questions. But some of these relationships were starting to have ripple effects where like I met with the sales guy. He sold for Kevin for the fish. Well, all of his clients are small businesses that were trying to figure out social.
Wow.
So he was going, he would call me and say, hey, I got another one. They need your help. Can you come in here and do some?
That's so awesome.
Do some work for it. And for him, I'm not rolling in there going, hey, don't do radio. Right. I'm supporting him. Radio still works today if it's still right.
Yeah.
So I'm supporting him and making him look good. And at the same time, getting some business. And he wasn't looking for a spiff or anything on the back end. He was, he was trying to make sure his clients were happy and helping a buddy.
So awesome.
So that stuff happened a lot. It's really, and on paper, that's kind of the nuance here. On paper, he's a salesperson for a radio station. That should not be a contact for me. Right. The contact should be the owner of the business. But his pocket, like the pocket of people that he knew all needed my services. So that was a light bulb moment. So
did you know him before?
Yeah, I knew him. He was, we networked together at the Tennessee Christian Chamber at that time.
Yeah. Are people the first, for folks that go through their first 100 cups, are they primarily reaching out to people that already kind of know, or are they making cold calls like, hey, Jason, Ryan Rieger here, love your 100 Cups Academy. My friend Dan Muller heard about it. Hey, I'm going to be in town in Franklin next week. I know you don't know me, but would you like to grab coffee? Is it some of those types of things too?
A few. Not that's like second level, third level stuff. When you're first getting started, and especially if you're kind of trying something new. The other thing is you need to make sure you're listening more than talking. So the 70-30 split, I always suggest people listen 70% of the time. So if you're meeting with me, it's going to feel different than if you're meeting with somebody else that's selling blog services, newsletters, stuff. I just want to help you so bad that I'm going to give you this information and try to just be a support structure.
That's so awesome.
And that really, and I've always felt that sales was more relational than transactional. And I know I'm a little bit of maybe an outlier in that sense, especially early on. Like it was all about get the deal, hustle culture, close it, use these lines. I never liked that stuff. I always hated that kind of sales training. So for me, it just never really resonated with my personality. And also like, I'm not 6'5" or 6'3". I didn't come from a bunch of money. Like I had to figure all this stuff out. And I'm up against people that, the cheerleader or the jock or whatever and those people I would be friends with in real life, but we just didn't see business or relationships necessarily the same. So there was some nuance there that just leading with the relationship first has really served me well over the last decade.
So would you just be like simply just build that relationship and let people know what you do, because they may become a client or they may know somebody. Now tell me, in those meetings, are you as bold as to say, not that this is bold necessarily, but are you saying things like, do you have anybody like, hey, I'm just starting my new company. I'm looking for people that I can bless with my social media
Yeah,
skills, and I want to help these types of companies. Do you know anyone? Are you having those types of conversations in those coffee
yeah,
meetings?
yeah, sure. But if you think about it, that's not my first
Yes,
statement,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Right. That's something that I would ask at the end of a meeting.
Yeah.
What didn't we cover today? Is there any other
Yeah.
questions that you have that I can help you with?
Yeah. That's
Who do
good.
you know that I need to meet with?
Yeah.
And
That's good.
you mentioned this, you touched on this, but I think it's important. I always start with the circle of people that you already kind of know that are in business or
Mm-hmm.
that you've met before. And what I got is I got a sheet of paper and I started writing names down. And then I would call them or send them a message saying, I want to get to know 15 people better this year. And
Mm-hmm.
you're on that list.
Yeah.
Would you have 30 minutes to chat with me?
Yeah.
90% of the time, they're going to say yes to that.
Yeah.
It's very unobtrusive.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, I'm going to be disappointed if you don't buy from me today, right? It's not that.
Right. And
The
you
opposite of
go
that.
there and you buy them coffee.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, absolutely. Because you invited them to that meeting.
Yeah, and
It's
there
good.
are people that that would roll in and like fight me for that or whatever, and I'm not gonna turn down a free cup of coffee, but usually
Sure.
I'm rolling in there first. So
Sure.
and that was kind of a financial thing, right? I didn't really want to have a bunch of lunch meetings,
Yeah.
uh, especially getting started.
Yeah.
Although my Starbucks bill is pretty high, probably. So
That's another thing, just in case you reminded me, you're talking, another thing that Dan mentioned here at this of Innovate event that your name came up again was there apparently, he said there's a book called The Latte Factor or Latte Effect about a guy who's more of a financial guy that was saying, if you saved, if you're used to going out to Starbucks and spending $4 a day, and that's, $4 a day times that's $120 a month over 5 years, that's X
right.
amount of dollars that you could have saved. Dan says, well, what if those were coffee meetings like my friend Jason Elkins has? And you were actually, he said, maybe you even like how that is so valuable. That $4 that you spent on that coffee, maybe you even spent 8 because you paid for the other guy's coffee. Like, is that because he was talking about it in the context of his 3 a.m. list, which I'm sure you've heard him talk about, which
I have.
are all the people that who could you call? Who do you know that you could call at 3 a.m. and they would stop everything? They're probably sleeping, but who would like wake up to talk to
Yeah.
you, whatever problem you're going through. If you needed 10 grand, they would say, here it is. You don't even need to pay me back, or don't even ask you why you need it. Those types of friends. And so that was the context. And he talked about your cups of coffee and how that book may be right financially, but man, that investment of that time with that person and that coffee is worth way more than that $4 or $8 that you're going to get, because how much, think of all the business you've gained
Yeah.
just by having those relationships.
Yeah. 100% agree with that.
Yeah,
And it is an investment in yourself, really, isn't it?
it is. Yeah.
and and the more people that you're connected to, and the weird thing about having a network is it comes out in odd ways. I get calls from old clients or hey, where do I donate a couch, or who has hey, I've got this thing that I want to give away, or man, we got this old car that like, is there anybody in your network that could use that? Or, oh yeah, there's like this shelter that I met with the owner a few years ago. Maybe she
Yeah.
would, those kinds of things. It's really, when someone hires me as a consultant or a coach or on a
Mm-hmm.
project, they're not just getting me, they're getting the benefit of this entire network. I call that
Yeah.
white noise value. What can I add
Yeah.
in addition that's going to separate me from
Mm,
competition? And
so good.
yeah, this stuff just has ripple effects the
Yeah.
more that you connect. And I want to say something about the introverts that are listening to this going, oh, no freaking way. That's crazy. This is crazy talk.
Right.
Some of the biggest success stories that I've received from people have been from some introverts that and really it's not necessarily a shyness, it's that they don't get energy from people.
Yeah.
So if they feel equipped walking into a networking meeting, or equipped having a conversation where they can actually be quieter,
Mm,
they don't have to always be selling. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
it's a game changer.
It really is. Yeah.
The extroverts don't think they need it anyway.
Right.
in a lot of cases,
So for those that let's just go ahead and plug what you're doing. I want to get in and talk about how you've turned that into a system.
Sure.
You actually have a course and you're thinking about doing a membership. So it's how can people, we're not ending the interview here, but because I want to ask you another question here and then go into what the academy is, but people can find you just we called 100 Cups Academy, correct?
100cups.coffee is my main website. And I just launched a listen70.com, which is the membership site that I'm building. It's actually, I built it on Mighty Networks. So if you want to go there and learn more about me, it's got the same information as my website. The website eventually will be decommissioned and everything will be at this new place. But listen, LISTEN, the number 70.com is the other place.
Perfect. Quick question. So when you are having coffee with these folks, you're obviously your goal is to build a relationship. What are some of your tactics or strategies to stay in touch with them? Because it's probably not, hey, we haven't had coffee, in 2 months. Maybe it is another coffee meeting, but I imagine there's other things that you do to keep that relationship going. What are some of those things that you do after you've had that first initial meeting?
So I have a system that I put people's names in. So I've got like a contact system, but it's really interesting when you have a relationship with somebody, you don't need to be reminded to call them as much. That's been a real strong realization because we're building friendships really. And if you're genuinely like helping people, those people feel confident calling you and asking you for a piece of advice or some support, or maybe we just want to share something.
That's good.
And there's something about trust building too, Ryan, that I'm really leaning into, where if I've got a relationship with somebody, there's like the inside jokes that happen where, you and I might share memes about streams of income or hustle culture being weird or whatever those things are. That's not the same things that I would share with my brother or another entrepreneur that I do business with. Like, there's something about building trust when you start connecting on a relational level.
That's right.
Where we can share things that are relevant to that person. So a couple things I do in the onset to build trust is the listening thing for sure. I'm talking over you. I'm thinking to myself.
No, it's all good.
And pretending everybody that I meet has a sign in their head that says, make me feel important. So I want to ask them about themselves. We're our favorite subjects. So want to make sure that I'm getting kind of at the heart of what makes them tick and what they care about. And then giving them the best advice that I can. I have a follow-up system that's every time I meet with somebody, they're getting a text within 24 hours. I want to make an introduction as part 2. So if there's somebody in my network that I know could help them or that they could help, I want to be the first to step up and say, hey, the two of you should meet. And here's why.
That's good.
And then there's a follow-up a week later, typically with some I try to look for some industry advice that might be helpful for them. So Talkwalker, if your audience wants to look that up, it's basically like Google Alerts. It's a free system where you can enter information into Talkwalker about concepts or industries or even name people's names. And it scours the internet and will send you an email with that information.
No way. Is it TALK or TOP?
No, that's right. TALK.
Talkwalker. Interesting.
And they have a paid membership for a lot of things, but this is a free offering that they give.
Wow, I've never even heard of this. I probably missed that lesson when I went to your academy where you talked about that.
Yeah, it's been
wow.
Yeah, there's one thing I think we talked, but the conversation could have gone sideways, and maybe maybe I missed that. But that has been a really good tool because I can reach out to clients, friends, people that I know, and say, hey, did you see this? Or this will be relevant to you. And I do this with clients. Sometimes somebody will mention them or they'll get published in the newspaper about something they did, but they didn't realize that it was that part of the newspaper that did that or whatnot. So I'm the first one to send them.
That's incredible
stuff. Yeah. So it's a great way to just continue to build
Wow.
relationships. Yeah.
Love it. Well,
Yeah, man.
what it's amazes me is that you've done you've done this for yourself. That's why I think it's a God idea that now, um, it works, and then you've turned
Yeah.
this into a system that others have found value in and pay you, and me included, to go
Yeah.
through an academy. So talk about what 100 Cups Academy is, and because we've just touched on just a small little bit.
Yeah.
You have like a whole list of questions that you can ask, and
Yeah.
how to run this, how this meeting should go, and it's super valuable information.
I really appreciate you saying that. When Dan signed up, I was like, he's been somebody that I've looked up to. I heard him speak over a decade ago at
Yeah,
Tennessee Christian Chamber. Like, dang, this guy could run this thing.
yeah.
It's like he knows all about networking. He was so gracious and kind during that.
But Dan's a learner, and he would
He is.
be the first to tell you that he doesn't know everything,
Yeah, I
and
know,
he
it's
is
great.
willing to pay for courses, mentoring, coaching for
Yep.
people that have a certain niche or know something that he doesn't. So he is definitely that way.
So that was a good realization for me. There's not an arrogant bone or a ego bone in that
Not at
dude's
all.
body. Just so sweet. And like, he even bought like popcorn. Like, there was a popcorn seller in that group. First thing he
Uh-huh.
did before he even had the call done, he had or anyway. So
I
it's a
love it.
4 week series,
Yeah.
and I walked through the steps of why, and then the how to do that, and
Mhm.
everything, like you said, from what questions to ask. This is where the introverts benefit. Really, it's what questions to ask. How do I end the meeting?
Yes.
If things are going not the way that I would like them to. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had to re-engineer what I did, and then put this together in this 4 week series. It's just an hour a week, and Dan's offering it right now through the Dean Intensives
Mm-hmm.
on his platform, um, and his is pretty inexpensive to sign up for. It's a really and the course is significantly discounted because of that.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to catch it. And I've got there's a subsidy right now for businesses in Tennessee that
Mm.
are taking this class as well. I got plugged into just a relationship again.
Wow.
When the pandemic hit, the state was looking for programs that would help small businesses, and this is one of the ones that they selected.
That's so awesome.
So they said, you can charge full price, charge the people a percentage, we'll pay the rest. I'm like, okay, sounds great to me.
Wow.
Let's make this specific to them, to small business owners.
That's incredible.
And I think that money ends this year. I'm going to run these quarterly,
Okay.
and we've got one going with Dan's group right now, and one with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center right now. The next one's in a few months.
Yeah.
I'll give you
You
specific
said the
dates.
Tennessee development money that runs out at the end of 2023.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So for specifically earmarked for this program, that's probably one or two more classes for me for the year.
Can you put a bunch of now on our class that we had? There were maybe 15 people on that call. How many do you like to keep it limited to?
It's about 20 or less.
Okay.
20 is probably the max. And I think one of the classes I have right now is like 6, which is pretty small for me. But the nice thing with that is that I just get to know them better, and they get a little bit more specialized for their particular
That's
business.
good.
So.
That's
But
good.
yeah, and there's an alumni group that I'm working on developing right now. So anybody that goes through that is going to be able to jump in a mastermind with me that wants to keep this going, keep the learning, keep diving into how to develop better relationships, and then incorporate all the stuff that I'm doing with marketing and social media and digital, so that they can continue to benefit from not just the sales aspect of it, but also how to use these meetings and the projects that they're closing and how to talk about them on digital so people understand that. So
that's
kind
awesome.
of combining the what I did, and then with some of the projects that I do now. I do coaching and consulting for digital marketing. So it just really starts to incorporate both of those together really nicely.
That's so good. So I know before we hit record, we wanted to talk about memberships. We said we want to talk about the membership side. And I mean, I have till 3:00. But that doesn't, we can keep that in the podcast, or we can talk about this privately, whatever you want to do.
No, I would love to hear
what questions do you have about it? And then also just know that I'm happy to jump on more calls to talk through it and do a deep dive with you on that. But yeah, I think there's definitely potential of turning this into a monthly recurring thing.
Yeah.
Where you're not so involved in the day-to-day of it.
Yeah, I like that idea. I've got a really nice team that I'm building as well. There's been some people that have gone through that are just incredibly passionate that like are almost pushing me faster than like I'm ready to launch because they see the value of continuing to develop relationships with others.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of launching that. And talk to me about pace for you. How do you keep up with and people ask me this about 100 meetings, which seems silly to me. Like I've had, I don't know, 5,000. I don't know. There's been a lot. Like, so how do you keep up with the pace of a group? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I've learned a ton from Shane Sams, who's also a friend of Dan's. And so he talks about the 3 C's: content, community, and coaching. So for you, it would be that, the core content of your academy is the content that you teach in those 4-week sessions.
Yeah.
That could be, I know there's a ton of value. I mean, it's worth way more to be able to be on a Zoom call with you and 15 other people, but that's not very scalable. Like if you really want to help a bunch of people, you're just going to have to do class after class. You could just book, I got group A at 10 o'clock today, another group D of 20 people starts at 11, group C is at 12. And you could handle a bunch of people that way, I guess, but that would just run you ragged. And so with a membership, your core content could be that the guts of the membership. It's the main stuff. Everybody goes through this. Then you've got the community, which you're familiar how that works because you're a part of the Eagles group with Dan. And then the coaching is usually, it could be whatever you want it to be. It's, Eagles is a perfect example. You've got the Monday mentor calls, and then they have the Eagles office hours. Now, Dan doesn't do any of this by himself. He's got a team. That's a good point. But if you're doing it by yourself, literally it could be a couple of Zoom calls a month with you. But just know that you don't, with my Legends group, for example, I have a couple of Amazon coaches that run those twice monthly webinars, because they are in the trenches of their Amazon business and are staying more up to date than I am personally. And so they are way better qualified to run those meetings. And so for you, it could look as simple as this. So you've got your content already done. So that's in there. That's the main thing. That's done. You might add to it as you learn new things or you do a new webinar. It adds to the core content.
It's always evolving.
But then, if you started right now, you've already got your core content done. You just got to have your community, which you have Mighty Network. So that's a place where people can converse. Mm-hmm. And then as far as you asked about the pace, what does it look like to run a membership community? Well, essentially you just got to, have either you or have somebody is tasked with making sure all questions get answered. That could be at the beginning, that could be you popping into the group for 30 minutes a day and checking it and making sure every question is answered. Mm-hmm. And then what's that new content going to be every month? Is it going to be once a month, ask me anything session? Is it going to be an interview with one of your students about their story and how they're using this? And then an ask me anything session? Is it going to, typically things I've seen are ask me anything sessions, some type of new training, some type of maybe an interview with somebody. Those are what I see. It just depends on how often you want to do that. It could be once a week, once a month, twice a month. So that's really it. So I'd say 30 minutes a day. You'd have a VA in the background doing some of the admin stuff, approving people into the group or kicking people out when they stop paying. Customer service, a VA would handle that for you. Your time, a few minutes a day in the group, answering questions, and then those twice monthly, once a week webinars that you would do.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's actually when I laid out the question. I like the 3 C's. That really helps me pinpoint this. Thank you for that. Mariah, thanks, Shane. Mariah Young is really interested in kind of helping some of the the community building as well.
She'd be a great moderator for you. And literally
Yeah.
you could just task her with like, make sure all the questions get answered, or at least like she may not know the answers, but she can say, hey, this is a great, I know Bob would know the answer to this. Let's
Right.
tag Bob in this thread so Bob answers it. Or
Yeah.
she tags you if you're the best person, but it would just be somebody's job to make sure everybody's taken care of. She'd be really good at that role for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. That's really helpful. I actually wrote out like, here are the first 6 classes. Like this could look like this. And you
For
know,
sure.
I've got a deep dive on LinkedIn that I've been doing as opposed to thinking about it as a job site.
Uh-huh.
Where are we connecting and how do we get around the spammy intro and then offer process that is
Yep.
kind of running rampant on there
And
right
that
now?
could actually be its own course, in my opinion. The link
that's interesting.
side of things could be its own course, but that if you're a member of your group, you get it for free.
Yeah, right.
And so you could make it to where, you know, I don't know what you're going to charge. Let's say you charge $47 a month, but the course is $97. Well, you might as well get in the group.
Yeah. Right.
And you get the community and the support with it.
Well, and let's talk about the pricing. If I'll just be transparent with that. This is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Just kind of in the thought of how I'm always looking to give back and to help others. One of the things that I wanted to do is incorporate a nonprofit, supporting a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I've got a really good friend that works for Convoy of Hope. She ran the donor mid majors for prison fellowship before, so she's been in this, and she is phenomenal. She would talk to us about you know, the way that she's using relationships in her business as well, and fundraising, which is even another level. If somebody's going to give you money not for a service or product that you're offering, but out of the goodness of their heart, they better feel really good about you. Like so, and so she's a master at that. Anyway, she's working with Convoy of Hope now in Australia, and they've got places all over the country that are all over the world they support. And I want to support either a water well or a coffee farmer. I'm looking for something that there's a little bit of a tie-in there. So my thought was $97 a month, and then a donation component going to one of these organizations. I hadn't seen anybody really do that before. I thought that was going to make it a little bit of unique.
So like a portion of that 97 would automatically go. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I don't feel like I am the master at figuring out what pricing is. I just know I've been around long enough that I've seen that, like, for example, my membership, the Legends group, is $197 a month. Now I have a $1 trial for people to start.
I saw that. I was going to ask you about that,
because it's a big jump to go from, you know, from maybe
nothing
not knowing me yet to 197 a month. But people are willing to pay that because it's, by being in that group, it grows their business, so it makes it worth it. And the same for this is, like, guarantee the stuff that they're going to learn from you is going to grow their business. And so I guess where I'm going at with this, like, if you told me you're going to teach people how to paint, it's more of a hobby type of thing. Now, people could take those paintings and sell them and learn how to, maybe there's a component of your course where you teach people how to sell their paintings. But I've seen usually the things on the lower end are the things where it's just more of a hobby type stuff. 17 a month, 27 a month, $37 a month. But you're teaching somebody, they implement your stuff in their business, it's going to grow their business. So,
for sure,
$100 a month is totally within the realm of reason. And I would say that, you know, I would say make it at least $50 a month. And so, just because, you know, anything below that, it's almost like they may not take it as serious. You know, it's like, there's a point where it's like, if it's $27, sure, you may have a lot of people in there, but it's so low that they may not even take action. So at $100 a month, it's like, well, you know, that's $100. That's it's a little bit of an investment. So I want to make sure I do this and I want to take advantage of it and implement this in my business. So the big thing about pricing, it's not so much about for me, it's what are people going to get out of it? What are they, the value, is totally there. Yeah. It's the value, not necessarily just that amount of money. It's what are they going to see? Like, what amount of investment is going to be, there's going to cause them to say, I need to be involved here because I'm spending this much money.
Yeah. Well, and I think as things evolve, as technology grows, and as we're being pulled in all these different directions, as ChatGPT is invading the marketing space right now, and
Yeah.
like relationships are only becoming more important. I just
Yeah.
feel so strongly about this that,
Yeah.
if we just knew more people, it's one or two relationships that can open the doors for incredible business.
It is.
The fact that Dan connected here has, it's like
Yes.
it's changed my business, one relationship.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know this guy yet, but have you heard of this book?
No.
Okay. So The Power of Who, he's a local guy to me. I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay.
He's a I think he runs a sports agency business.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But you should get this book or at least learn about him. But he talks a lot about the same types of stuff where it's essentially like he would say you already know the people you need to know to do what God's called you to do. God's placed those people in your life. You just need to let them. You just need to let people know what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And they'll either become clients or they'll connect you to people. And so that's kind of the same way. I mean,
Yeah, for sure.
talking about starting with your own sphere of influence already. So there's a lot of similarities there. But it's just such a good book for those listening. It's called The Power of Who by Bob Bodine. I need to have him a guest on my podcast. But the reason I thought about him was that when you launch your podcast, he'd be a great guest. But also, I don't think he has any back end type course or membership. So somebody like that, if you had a connection with him, you know what I should do? I'll try to get him on my podcast. And if it feels right, say, hey, I have a friend that has a academy based on your content. I mean, not based on his book, but it's very similar, because who knows what could happen. He may be, I want to know that guy. And heck, if he started sending business your way, that'd be kind of nice too.
It'd be great. Heck yeah. Or if I could help him with whatever, that's and the fact that he's been in the agency or kind of sports connection and management fits right in there with staffing. It's really similar stuff there. So
for sure. What other question? I mean, again, we can talk more after the interview. What else about memberships do you feel I can help with?
Well, it's that, and really, how did you get to be where you are? What were the critical thing with, and it's like the world doesn't need another podcast. And I've kind of been in my own head about this a little bit, but the power of relationships is so, it's made such an impact for me, and the people that I know that are successful, it was the one tipping point, or that one person, or that one door open. And I'm really interested in tracking that as as a podcast premise. So your, how did you come to be where you are? You do a lot of stuff. It's not just one thing.
For sure.
So can we talk about that a minute?
It's people, really. It is. It's the relationship. So people that are listening have heard my podcast for a while. They know this story, but I'll make it short for you. Sure. But essentially back in 2012, my friend and mentor, Jim Cockrum, who's big in the Amazon space, he had an eBay auction for a book called 101 Free Marketing, which was a book about marketing ideas, free marketing ideas. And the proceeds were going to go to Hope Village in Detroit. A friend of his has that nonprofit organization. I woke up the morning of the auction, and the auction included a 30-minute call with him and a whole bunch of courses from other people. So they joined in to hopefully raise a lot of money for this charity.
Yeah.
I woke up that morning and told my wife, I just felt the Lord saying, you need to win this auction. So I told her what I thought we needed to bid. It was $1,500, which at the time was a gargantuan amount of money for us.
Sure.
And so she says, okay, if that's what you feel like we need to do. So I bid, and we won. And instead of a 30-minute phone call, I said, Jim lives close to where my parents live in Indiana. So I said, could my wife and I take you out to lunch, fly up to Indiana and buy you lunch? He was so gracious. He said yes, but he paid for lunch. He spent 2 hours with us, and that started a relationship that has been worth, I mean, not if you just boil it down to monetary terms, obviously it's way more valuable in the relationship but in monetary terms, hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. And so that was the key one. And then learning about how to do Amazon. He told us about Amazon's FBA program, Fulfillment by Amazon. And then we started selling small, because we were selling furniture on Craigslist. And then we started selling smaller things on Amazon. And then I wrote a book about how to source wholesale. And then so I started getting in information. And then as I did that, then it kind of blossomed into the membership thing. I did some courses, and I wrote some books, and then it went from a course to a membership. But that key relationship was kind of the tipping point for everything. That from pre-gym was all selling furniture on Craigslist, and that was really good. The Lord blessed that business.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're no longer selling furniture. It's been years since we did that. But it was that relationship there.
So this is you're really confirming that this concept is valuable and really motivating to other people too. Like,
for sure.
Just in the fact that, so this is, you shot your shot with this guy, right? First of all, you had to put the money up. Mm-hmm. That was a big deal. And the fact that you, in your soul, needed to get a return on the money. Yeah. So not only that, you flew to another location with your spouse. So like there was more investment there. Yeah. Like you really, that's a, God, kudos to you. That's
and the thing, it wasn't even like, ooh, if I get with Jim, I'm going to someday write a book and create courses with him. That wasn't even on my radar. I just felt I needed to get in front of him, and that relationship would be awesome to have, because he was somebody I looked up to over the years. But it was a God thing for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Isn't it amazing that the people that we feel like are kind of out of touch, out of our reach, tend to be the kindest, the nicest, the most supportive, the most willing to help. Gosh, after 100 Cups Academy, I asked Dan for a coffee meeting, and he agreed and spent an hour unpacking his entire business for me.
So
I'm like,
awesome.
It's like
he charges thousands for that.
Right. It was just absolutely incredible. It's unbelievable what happens when you ask. Yeah,
my goodness.
Man, what a great story. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, Jason, thanks for being on the show. This has been a unique episode. We're actually turned into a little bit of a question and answer about membership and stuff. But I mean this. Let's jump back on when you're ready to talk more about memberships. You want to do a deeper dive on anything or ask any other questions that you didn't get asked.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
And thanks for being on here. I appreciate it.
It's been great, Ryan. Thank you.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.